All right. Welcome to Building an Email List with the Online Network of Independent Learning Professionals. Good to see everyone. So, quick question before we, get into the actual presentation. Just you can put, chat 1, 2, or 3. Which of these options best describes you? So, number 1 is I want to start building an email list. Maybe you don't already have one. Number 2 is you already have an email list and you want to work on growing it. Or number 3, you've already got an email list and don't need to grow it. So let's see what we got here. Nah, Danny, I have an email list and I always need to grow it. Yes, I fit into that one as well. Awesome. So I'm seeing some 2s, already got an email list, want to work on growing it. Tabitha, Michelle, Carrie. And then we've got Jen, so wants to start building an email list, and Celeste, awesome. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's just get right into it. So on the agenda today, we're going to talk a little bit about why you need a list, which you probably already know, but just some reasons why you may not think of that you also need it. And then we'll get through the steps. So laying the groundwork, creating a lead magnet, choosing the platform, promoting the lead magnet, and then maintaining your email list. So that's what we'll do in this. If we have not met, I think I have met everyone in here, but if we've not met, I am Patty Bryant. I am the founder of this community, and I've created training for over 75 organizations. And at this stage in the game, I am a somatic business coach, and most of my attention these days is in that realm, helping other people create a life and, just intentionally create their life and work experiences, something that is really, that I'm very passionate about. So why you need it? Reason number 1, why you need an email list. One thing is it's direct communication with clients, which is really awesome. If you are on it like keeps you top of mind and it reminds them of what you can do. Like if anybody signed up for Christy Tucker's blog, that's a wonderful way to use her email list. It, helps her build credibility, but it also keeps her top of mind. It's like, oh yeah, here's Christy with the blog, and reminding people of what, she can do. So that's one of the reasons. Reason number 2 is oftentimes you get high engagement. So it's more personal than like a social media post or something like that. I actually get a lot of responses from the emails that I send. And especially if you put like a question, like a PS with like a question at the bottom of your email. And, sometimes we get in a lull as freelancers. There's the ebb and flow. And one of the ways you can use your email list if you're in a lull is to, say like, I've got one spot left, or I'm, offering, this one thing to people. So you can kind of like drum up some business. I mean, that's one of the main reasons that, you'd have an email list, to kind of keep business coming in. Number 3, you own it. So again, unlike social media, if like the algorithm on Facebook or, Instagram or whatever changes, you kind of, even if you build up like a massive follower list, you don't own the algorithm and you don't know. And sometimes it's went down in the past, and then here you are stuck with no way of communicating with your people. So anything that you own is so much better if you can get folks to sign up. Reason number 4 is to establish credibility, which I also talked about a little bit, but it really does help. I mean, if you think about email lists that you were on, when you like consistently week after week see that someone is telling you about X, Y, or Z, it's really helpful for you to be able to like whenever you're like thinking, oh, I need someone to, do some storyboards. I'm going to think of Christy because she's got this credibility with this, email list, and in so many other ways. But that's one of the ways if you're not like in a community with her all the time. So these are some reasons that I can think of, but I just want to go ahead and open this one up for discussion. What are some reasons that you can think of? You can put it in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and speak on up. Yeah, Christy. seen several Facebook page owners recently who had audiences and then lost them when their pages were hacked. I mean, and how many times on Facebook do you get like friend requests from people that you're already friends with? So, it's, not the same people. And yeah, build relationships, create a community. Danny, that's an awesome reason. Gather feedback. Yep. Jen, I love that. Cynthia, longer form writing. Tabitha, just like selling on Etsy versus Shopify, you get the list from Shopify, not Etsy. Yeah. Yeah, Nicole, definitely creates an entry point that feels more personal and private, for sure. Yeah, marketing that doesn't feel icky, Christy. That's so true. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And the nice thing about lists is it could be like your own, style. For me, I tell a lot of stories if you're on my email list, it's mostly like the one I sent yesterday is, about when you try and you try and you try and you just don't seem to get anywhere. Any other reasons you think of or anything you want to expand on with having an email list? I think we've got a good solid list here. All right, let's get into the steps then. Tabitha, you can add value to people even if they aren't a customer and they need you at some point, and that is their connection. Totally. Yeah, definitely. Wow, I went all the way to the end. Was that great or what? 1 second. No, that's fun. La, 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 la. Let's just get back to where we're at. All right. All right, so step 1, laying the groundwork. It was so efficient. Laying the groundwork, who do you want to reach? So that's the first question. So it's like that old adage, if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. So for me at this point in what I'm using my list for, I talk to midlife purpose seekers who, like, most of them have created like a career in an industry that they're not really happy about anymore, and they're feeling unfulfilled in life. For you, it might be, training developers in a single person department or a training manager who oversees a large team. So it really matters like who you want to talk to, because that's how you actually can start to really target what you're saying and how you're communicating with people. And then the next thing you need to know is about what are their problems. So for me, again, I know that my audience are people who want to, find meaningful work, but they also want to get paid well. And so that's what I focus on. I know that in my case, they're not sure what's keeping them stuck. And so that's, again, what I need to have an ideal customer, Tabitha, right? So if you think about like a training developer on a one-person team, they might have needs like, creating training on a small budget. I worked as a one-person team at one point in a company, and I was doing like absolutely everything, like the voiceover, and like I had $0 budget for graphics. So I was always looking for ways to find graphics that like would not, make people want to faint when they saw them because they were so bad. Like, you're kind of your needs are different than someone that's like a training manager and a large team. They may be looking for effectively managing projects. So if that's something in your wheelhouse, then you'd be talking about that. So it's really important, again, who it is and what are their problems. So I'd like to hear from other folks, like who specifically you're trying to reach. And if you know their problem, that's great as well. So you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat, just so we can hear some ideas other than mine. And the crowd goes wild. Small to mid-sized business owners. Yeah, awesome, Michelle. Yeah, and they're going to have different problems than, like people in a super large corporation, or, someone, in corporate. Yeah, very, very different. Awesome. Anyone else? Yeah, try to do everything themselves. That's us. Carrie, audience, people working in law enforcement training, have a range from management to instructors. So like Carrie's, the way that she speaks is going to be so different than the way that I would speak. Makes perfect sense. Nicole, K-12, higher ed and other ed consultants who work in learning management learning management systems or want to build one. Danny, it's us, we're her list. Instructional designers, e-learning developers who are doing it all. Yes, ma'am. Awesome. And then we need to know, what do we want to do, like with our list? What are we trying to achieve? So it could be a range of different things. It could be setting up consultation calls. It could be, typically it's like to sell something. Even if you don't have something to sell, you need to have a list because eventually you'll create something to establish credibility, which we talked about earlier. And again, like if you're not sure, you can just start with establishing credibility. When I first started my email list, I had no idea like what am I trying to sell? I'm not really sure, but I know who the people I'm trying to talk to are, and you can just start there. Yeah, so let's look at the chat here. Audiences, Christy's audience, generally instructional designers, training managers who want to level up their e-learning. Yeah, scenarios. Danny sends weekly newsletters and tries to always have a call to action. Yeah, that's such a good thing to have as a call to action, because I think sometimes we assume people think that we know what the next steps we want them to take are, and that's not true. So what goals do you have for your email list? If you've already got one, yeah, high value. That's really important, Danny, because, this is people's time and they're not going to spend time reading something if it's not super high value. Vanessa, people have decision fatigue. So that call to action helps them make one less decision. Yeah. And I think the other thing with call to actions is make sure that you're, just giving one call to action, because it can be, I think if you give them many, then that's kind of like the analysis paralysis. But if you just give one, then it's really clear cut. What is the next step? Yeah, Nicole. First step is to send that first email. Absolutely. We're happy to have you, Vanessa. We don't get to see Vanessa as much these days. It's good to see you. Danny, a ridiculously high open rate last week. Danny, not to put you on the spot, but could you speak a little bit about about what was going on with this high open rate?
Well, it was funny because I just went in and looked at it. I don't send my email, my virtual assistant does. And then I try to pop in there and look at it, but it was like 49%. And then our click-through rate was, I know, Christy. And then our click-through rate was about 76% of those
Dang.
open, which is just insane. So then we really had to go back and look at the content that we had provided. And luckily I can see kind of what they clicked on. So the other thing so was it the content, or we also decided we would try some different send times and days. We sent it Sunday at 11 in the morning. And we usually don't send things on the weekends. We usually send them Monday through Friday. So we also wonder if we are seeing, so we're going to send it Sunday for the next few weeks and see if that is impacting. We're wondering if, because it's summer, people are on vacation, so they're checking email on Sunday before they go back to work, because that's most of my list. I don't know that I have the answer, but it's really important that you look at those numbers and evaluate and then try some different, and we have been trying some different things to see what our audience is interacting with. And that was really helpful. So yeah, we send Nicole, we send once a week. So we post a blog once a week, and then we send a newsletter that incorporates that blog, and then usually a technology tip or something like that. And then maybe you'll appreciate this, Patty. So we had put in there something about Scrumptious ice cream, which is in Denver, because they were having this big event. I got more click-throughs on the scrumptious ice cream than I did on almost anything else. And my list is not Denver specific. So
Wow.
I just thought it was so I don't know if people were hungry Sunday morning when we sent it. But anyway, it definitely look at those numbers and then figure out like what's really resonating with your audience.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for that, Danny. We will talk about like the numbers to aim for in this as well. And yeah, and Vanessa, I see you have your hand raised. Over to you.
I just to echo what Danny is saying, we've been experiencing both at Anchored and at Kirkpatrick, really high open and click rates. On the Anchored side, I can trace it back to when our content got more fun again. I think we went, it just was different before. And then once I did the Taylor Swift Eras tour as like part of my and started really ensuring we're providing super high value, it went through the roof. Seeing what people click on is also super interesting. People will still click on our lead magnet from January, and it's like the best one we've ever done. And then what we just talked about this morning, my marketing team and I, sends happening for us on Thursday and Friday recently have been really good. So it's just about like playing around with your audience. That may change. Maybe it's because it's summer. For people, by the time it's Thursday or Friday, they're not as overwhelmed by their email because they've sifted through a lot of it in the beginning of the week. I was always a beginning of the week type gal, like Tuesdays. But so really it's just about playing around and knowing that things will probably change at some point, and you just have to, be flexible with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also everyone's audience is different. So it's like, it also depends on, like, for example, if your audience is teachers or if your audience is, business people, or if it's entrepreneurs. So you never know. But yeah, I love that. I like that piece of advice. You got to play around with it. I mean, I think so often I am very guilty of this. I will get into a rhythm and I'm like, this is what I do. And then never to look back and just like iterate. That's how you, see some results if you, iterate. So thanks, Vanessa. Anything else with this one before we move on? You can click raise hand or you can type in the chat. I can't see everyone's video, so my usual superpower of seeing this is gone. All right, we'll continue on. Okay, step 2 is to create a lead magnet. So this is like, why are they going to sign up for your list? And it's got to be something that they actually want, something actually that they really, really want. These are a couple of examples from me personally, that have done really well. So the free on-demand masterclass. So again, this is targeting people who are just kind of feeling stuck in life. They're not sure what's next for them. And I created like a masterclass where they just instantly get the free video, and then this quiz, which is your reality creator type. So it's like, how are you creating your reality? And these are 2 of the things that I've done, but there's lots of different other things you could do. So for example, other ones that I know of that you could do, like just some ideas that I was thinking for us specifically in this industry, is a checklist. So like a course accessibility checklist, maybe a cheat sheet, like a learning objectives cheat sheet, thinking of like Bloom's taxonomy, maybe a template. So, I've provided the scenario mapping template. So that's for people who are creating scenarios, but they're not really sure where to start. A workbook. So, AI is super big. So like AI for learning designers, maybe different ways of using it. I know Carrie showed us some cool things that she's done recently. A blog like Christie's that we've talked to. I mean, a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of different ideas here. There's also, I'm going to put this link in the chat, but there's lots of really great ideas in this link. But I'm also just interested in, what lead magnets do you guys offer? And, what are some ones that you've seen that you feel like is something that does really well? Yeah, free planning templates. Yeah, totally, Danny. Oh my gosh, I use ChatGPT for everything now. Like I just, to like help me with ideas and brainstorm and come up with stuff. It's super helpful.
Yeah, so I took Stu McLaren's course on memberships, and he uses a few prompts that he had us go through and do to basically create 365 days of content. And it was really, really helpful because now I haven't created the content that goes with that for social media and whatnot, but it will give you, even if you don't post those 365, it'll give you ideas of lead magnets that you could then kind of produce, and take kind of the brain power, yeah, out of it.
That's an awesome idea.
And Vanessa, I have that too. I have a challenge for Canva, and that's how I get a ton of subscribers. That's always my big push. I'm with you.
I'm going to grab that link in case anyone needs ideas. Yeah, Vanessa, turning webinars into lead magnets. Totally. That's and I feel like that does really well. I mean, that's the one that I created. It was a recorded version, like, for a lead magnet, but yeah, you could just give a webinar and put the recorded version as a lead magnet.
Yeah, I find for webinars, the best for me has been cutting it and using it on social. The best lead magnets for us have been, and it depends on your audience. So like I mentioned, I used to use, I think it's called Interact for a quiz. It kind of was like a BuzzFeed style quiz. It didn't resonate with my audience.
Mm-hmm.
But I moved over to Score App, and that resonates a lot better. Even even though the content's like still fun, you can get like a really nice report out of it, and it feels something that's more robust than just like a Cosmo quiz. I picked all C's. And so it feels more personal. So people will really, I was just talking with someone, he's a story brand. So Donald Miller has a story brand method for marketing, and they've got certified guides. So I was talking with one of them, and he was saying that like your people are so picky about what they give their email for that it really does have to be super high value. So like a PDF can work if it like is the accessibility checklist, or like a workbook if it's AI related. But if it's a workbook on something that is kind of basic, those don't work. What they have been seeing, what I've noticed with Donald Miller, is they'll actually do the courses, like the videos, and then at the end they'll have something else that you can get, and that's when you put your you would put your email in. So it's like a series of, let's say, 3 to 5 videos, so that you build that like, know, and trust, and then you give your email, and they're seeing that that has been the highest converters to actual sales, because you're by that point pretty bought in. So
Yeah,
it all depends.
yeah. That's a really great idea. Thanks for sharing that. And it's interesting because for me, the quizzes have been, they convert really well. But like you said, because it depends on the audience, who it is that's consuming it, and what's the quiz about, so all of those things taking into consideration. Yeah. Anything else on creating a lead magnet? All right, so we'll keep heading on. So step 3 is choosing a platform. So, where are you going to be sending your emails from? Like, what is the platform that you're going to use? you know, the technology doesn't really matter. You just choose one you prefer. But I just wanted to have a quick discussion here because this is, you know, a step that you do need to have some platform. And I just wanted to see, you know, what platform do you all use and why? I'll tell you a little bit about mine. I've used MailChimp in the past, and now I use ConvertKit. And yeah, Marianne, same thing. One second. I have a cat that is incessantly wanting in. Just one moment. Oh my God, that's better. He's like clawing at the door. So I used MailChimp in the past, and I found, you know, I think it really depends on what you want to do with your list, because all of these kind of have similar but different capabilities. And so like right now, I'm really just keeping it super simple, and ConvertKit I find is a little bit lighter and like easier for me to maneuver and just send out things quickly. Whereas MailChimp is like super robust and has like tons of bells and whistles. I just didn't need all the stuff. So yeah, feel free to unmute yourself or put in the chat.
I was just going to say to Nicole, I've never bought a list. I've just always organically grown it through my blog and my newsletter and clients, and then Training Magazine events really help too. But I'm like Christy, the number of emails I wake up to of people who want to sell me the SHRM list from the conference, and like a couple, like, I mean, I'm probably getting 5 every morning. And I just delete them. But I know they're out there, but I have never done it because I kind of, the people who are emailing me feel a little spammy. They don't even know who I am or what I do. Matter of fact, I wasn't even at the SHRM conference and they'd like me to buy a list. So
Well, and it also matters like who the right audience is too, you know, like just getting a larger audience doesn't equal more like sales or more like bottom line anything. So, you know, because there's, you know, now that I'm in the social media game a lot more than I used to be, like, oh my gosh, you know, it's similar. Like I get all these things of, you know, you can get more, pay for followers and this and that. And it's like, I've already got all the followers I don't need. It's everyone in the training industry that is not like a midlife purpose seeker. So just having followers doesn't equal like moving a needle on what you're trying to move.
It'll also tank your analytics.
Oh
Because
yeah,
they
that's
usually
good
won't
point.
open up or
Yep.
click on your email, so you won't really know what's working and what's not.
Yes. That's a really good point, Vanessa, that you brought up. Yeah, if you have the wrong people, you want people to unsubscribe from your list if they're not the right people. And if you send out emails and you don't get, you know, open rates, like she said, it tanks your analytics, and it also, and I can't remember exactly what, I'm not like a guru in this, you know, arena here, but as I remember, it also can provide the deliverability issues if you've got like a whole bunch of people that are not opening up your email. So there's that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And I apologize, my camera's off because I haven't showered from a workout yet.
Oh, no worries.
So thank you.
Not a problem.
I thought I'd mention, because I just discovered this week. Somebody had put out something talking about having a LinkedIn newsletter, which I didn't even know existed on LinkedIn. So I just set mine up yesterday and thought I'll try that out, because I'm hoping at some point in the next little while doing like a course on how to use AI for instructional development. So I'm basically now trying to build up a list to promote that course to. So I tried the LinkedIn one yesterday and just did, because I have my other newsletter, so I just took the content out of my regular one and put it on there. And I got quite a few people commenting and stuff from my LinkedIn, I guess, followers that aren't on my regular mailing list. So that might be another option that I'm still just figuring out, but it looks pretty good. Seems to have some pretty good reach if your LinkedIn is well curated.
Yeah,
My
that's a really,
LinkedIn's really good. Like I'm connected to tons of people in the law enforcement space, so my
Awesome.
reach there is perfect for me.
that's a really good point, Carrie, that you brought up. I have a LinkedIn newsletter, and what I found is LinkedIn pushes newsletters far more. You get far more organic reach than you do on almost any other type of post. So, yeah, I think second to that is a carousel, and then third is reels. Just catching up with the chat. Cynthia asked if you're using double or single opt-in. And so I wanted to open that up for discussion. I'm using single opt-in, but I will be changing to double once I get a little bit more momentum going. And the reason, the reason to use double is to make sure that like you've got like a curated list of people who are really meaning to follow you. Right now, I'm a little bit more like, come on in, everyone. But so it all that I think again also matters on what your intentions and goals are. But any other thoughts on double versus single opt-in? And the other thing I'll say about the LinkedIn newsletter that Carrie mentioned is that that is such a easy way to reach people. They don't have to give you their email address, and it's a way to have people subscribe to one thing that you are constantly putting out. And so, I mean, it's just like one click. It's like, yeah, I'll follow this. So you're going to get a lot. I mean, I think whenever I created mine, I had like 300 people sign up in like 3 days. I mean, it's like, I think it works pretty well.
And the nice thing is when people are on LinkedIn, like I know for me, like I'm there for business purposes. So when I'm on LinkedIn, that's what I'm there to read. Whereas my email, I just have like tons of different things coming in. So I think you're kind of getting people when they're in the right headspace, I guess, because I'm there specifically to read content about business when I log into LinkedIn. So I think it is a really good way to get people when they're thinking about the right thing that you want them.
Yeah, definitely. Tabitha asked about hosting videos to use them to build the like, know, and trust, to use it as a lead magnet for the email. So I think, Vanessa, you replied that you hosted it on your website on an unlisted page. But yeah, just I wanted to kind of circle back to that because you could do, unlisted on the YouTube video, and YouTube is also great because a lot of people don't know how to like host videos on their own website, but you could just have like an unlisted link. So lots of easy ways to do that. Yeah. All right, there was a lot of chat going on. Anything else before we move on to step 4, which is promoting your list? All right, I think we've figured out our platforms. So how once you've got it built and you've got your email platform selected, you will need to promote your lead magnet. And so there's lots of different ways that you can do that. So we could promote it on social media, on a website. You could do some written articles. So for example, like the LinkedIn newsletter, or like one of the things that I do is I actually reach out to different websites like Tiny Buddha and offer to write articles for them. Guest appearances, so that could be like a podcast or like TLD cast, things like that. So those are a few different ways. Website, if you've got a lead magnet, it should definitely be on your website. Like it should be, at the top, it should be like right up there, because that's the call to action. Like when people visit your website, you want to go ahead and capture their email address. That way you can communicate with them further. Otherwise, you lost them. They came and then they went. Anything else, what other ways do you, promote your lead magnet? And you can go deeper into one of these or maybe a different way that you promote it yourself. Conferences. Yeah, Danny.
Yeah.
Really good.
I echo the website. I did not have, ours was a pop-up on the website for the longest time. And I found more success people opting into my newsletter when it became just like part of the banner at the bottom. Cause then that way they would see it. And it's been fabulous to see how many people go to my website and then opt into my newsletter. And those are some of the most engaged people. Cause they
Yeah.
liked what they saw and then decided to opt in. So
Yes.
don't do the pop-up because then they won't see it again for like over the long time.
That's a really good point. Yes. Yeah.
Patty, I think another great way to promote your lead magnet that a lot of people don't chat about is to find someone who's also growing their list and trade exposure. So you
Mhm.
leverage someone else's list.
Mhm.
Obviously, like someone who's not competing with you. But if you have someone who's has like a tangential purpose to have a weekly highlight where you're featuring the other person's lead magnet and then you trade. And it's a great way to get in front of a lot more people.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a really great suggestion. Thanks for that, Cynthia.
I had a friend, this is back when I was blogging, but she promoted my free opt-in. She didn't actually tell me that she was going to. And then I woke up and I had 500 new subscribers and what the heck? Oh,
Dang.
thanks, Chelsea. And then I thought, what if like you intentionally did that? It'd be a win-win because you're providing value to your customers or your subscribers, while also giving an opportunity for the person who's creating that space for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because a lot of what we do is, it's like you've got instructional designer and you got project manager. Those are two really compatible, not opposing, compatible, ways to partner with someone. Yeah,
Oh,
great way to.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, Cynthia.
I was gonna say, has anyone done paid traffic to a lead magnet?
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on right now. Danny's got her hand raised. Danny, let's hear from what your experience has been with that.
It's a bit of a moving target with Facebook because their Facebook ads are not always it just really depends on conversion. You have to be, if you don't want to waste your money, you have to be looking at your conversion rate on a regular basis to see if those lead magnets are actually converting, and are they converting the right people. So I was running ads for a while on some leadership stuff, and while it was great, I really helped get a following on my Facebook page. It wasn't necessarily the right people that are instructional designers kind of in the L&D area. So just look at your data and see like what's your conversion rate, which of your lead magnets are converting, and is it worth the time and money? I did it all last fall, especially when I was promoting DCA for Amy Porterfield. But they didn't convert to sales. So I might have gotten some new followers. I might have gotten some new newsletter people, but I wasn't getting conversions for DCA sales. And so I sort of stopped because their Facebook ads have just been a little tough. And if you're just boosting them, you're probably going to have a really low conversion rate because boosting doesn't always work. It really has to be a setup ad. So I've sort of stepped away from it because I didn't see the ROI for myself.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Danny. This is the world that I'm living in right now. So Nicole.
And I didn't do them myself. I should say that too.
Yeah.
I paid somebody else to do it because it was not something I wanted to learn how to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm bootstrapping it over here, but I did spend several months with, in Brandon Lucero's course on messaging and marketing. And so now I know just enough to be dangerous, for me. Nicole mentioned that she tried it with an ad through Facebook and got only three for $35. And so I'll just mention a couple of things that I've learned in case it helps anyone. And you might already know all of these things, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Number one is you've got to be really targeted in your ads. So I'll give you a example. When you are in Facebook, and you're creating an ad, just like what Vanessa said, you don't want to just, or no, what Danny said, you don't want to boost. You want to actually go into the ads manager, and go that way. But number one, you've got to be really targeted. That's what drives the cost up. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that I am running a lead magnet for like Christian married women. You can use what's called a lookalike audience. So I might use someone like Marianne Williamson, who is a little bit of woo, but a little bit of like, Christian. And then I would use another piece that says married. And those two things together, Marianne Williamson, people that are similar to her followers, and married, can greatly reduce how many people and target exactly who you're looking for. So you're going to have a less spend on ads because those are the right people. So that's one thing that that I'm learning the hard way is you've got to be really, really targeted in, you don't want to be above the $10 million mark. If you're running an ad and you look over to the side, you can see like how many people it's going to, how many people are in the group. You don't want to go over the 10 million mark. So that's just some random stuff that I have learned in the last couple of months, which may or may not help anyone. Anything else with promoting your lead magnet before we move on? Yeah, and if you can, just go the agency route, and then you don't have to know any of this. Good to know, Vanessa. I haven't looked into LinkedIn ads, but
That's what the guy that I worked with said as well, that he sees
Yeah.
that across the board, that they don't convert well.
Yeah, I spoke with Monkedia. He does stuff for Donald Miller and some others that are in kind of similar spaces. And Noah mentioned these like LinkedIn ads. The people there are not there to buy. And not necessarily that you're on Facebook necessarily to buy, but just the ads feel a little bit different.
yeah,
Because I even said the same, like my audience isn't on Facebook, and he's like, no, you still need to be using Meta and not LinkedIn. So there's something to think about.
Well, and I'll also say one other final thing about ads on Facebook. If you use through play campaigns, which are just more to get people to like view a video, for example, like let's say you do a 1-minute video or 15-second video, or those shorter videos, those are just like what is it, like a penny per 15-second view or something like that. I actually had tons of people sign up for my quiz and masterclass, my free stuff, my lead magnets, just by putting that out there. And those are cheaper because you're not having them click out of Facebook. Facebook's going to charge you a lot of money to run an ad where they're leaving Facebook to go to your lead magnet. That's where it gets more expensive. So if you do through play ads, you're not asking anyone to leave Facebook. You're just, putting out a reel or whatever. And if they like what you say in that video, a lot of the times, well, in my case, what happened is they just signed up for my lead magnets anyway, without me having. So it was a much, much cheaper way to get people aware of my brand and follow me and sign up for the lead magnets and get email addresses without like overtly putting a lead magnet in there. So it's just another option. Anything else on promoting? All right. Maintaining your list. So one thing to be aware of is you might need to create different groups, different segments of your list. So for example, for me, I might separate my group for midlife purpose seekers on like people who are interested in starting a business versus those who aren't interested in starting a business, because I'm going to be speaking to them different ways. That would help me provide more targeted emails. And the other thing about segmented emails, because you're providing like, you're speaking more concretely to that specific person. And even think about like someone who has been an instructional designer and they're like maybe at the very beginning of their journey, and you're talking to them versus someone that's like more well established. They've been in, the industry for, several years. You're going to be talking to them differently. So the numbers on this one is if you segment your emails, it drives 30% more opens. So 30% more people open the email, because you can change the subject line to something much more targeted. And then you get 50% more click-throughs than unsegmented ones, because again, this is all targeted directly to that person. So this is my chaos right now.
Yeah, I'm struggling in this area. I just had this conversation with my virtual assistant on Friday or on Monday. If you can do it from the beginning, I would highly recommend that, because I am like trying to go back and do it now, and I want to cry. So I figured out, I'm doing it ass backwards, basically. I figured out a way that I can see. So like our newsletter on 6/23 had a 72% open rate. In my platform, I can go in and I can see who clicked on what, and then I can add tags if they clicked on certain things. So that's how I'm going to handle it, is going on the back end. And if they clicked on, let's say, my blog that was about a certain, so you can't see the names of who clicked on what, but I can see the numbers and I can tag them. So 622 people clicked on a certain link. Well, last week, scrumptious.
Yeah.
And so,
You're scrumptious,
and so
people.
I could tag them with ice cream, and then I'm going to send them all my ice cream emails. But I had a training magazine event as well. And so I can kind of see who, and I can tag them and start to kind of segment them, because I'm kind of doing it ass backwards, basically. This is where I struggle the most. And I don't know, I would love to hear what other people have done, because, when you're when you're an instructional designer and an e-learning developer and you work in the space that we do, everyone that I come across, I would say 95%, they do everything. They do graphics. They
Yeah.
work in Storyline. They work in Rise. They work in Captivate. They storyboard. They do all of these things. And a lot of my content is all around those topics. So I struggle with creating too segmented of a list for like my newsletter, because my blog is typically talking about all kinds of different things within that learning and development space. And I feel like they might not have loved the blog last week, but they might really love the blog this week. My open rates are still really high. So I guess that hasn't motivated me to work on it too hard, because it gives me a headache. So, that's just where I'm at in the world. Yeah.
One thing with the, if you can get clear on a segment, I know one of the things that people do is you can actually send an email, and it requires a little bit of tech, but you can send an email and just have like 3 options. It's like, hey, I want to really like speak, to you and really get you what you need. And then they click, are you interested in business? Are you interested in this? And they click it, and then it pushes it through and it tags it. So you could also do something like that.
And we talked about exactly that on Monday. Kind of, we have these 3 buckets. It's easy for me to do to my Canva people. So anyone who's really interested in my Canva stuff, it's been easy for me to segment that group and tag them, because I did that from the beginning. I think it's so I've been in business for 16 years. It's all the people that have been on my list for 14 years that I didn't touch for 7 of them because I was so busy working. Right. And now I'm just getting back into that. So, yes, just ask me how it's going occasionally, because
yes,
it is a struggle. It is a struggle.
I hear you. Yeah. Segmenting is,
And Vanessa, how did you survey your audience? Or do you have a survey tool in your, or did how did you do it?
No, this was fun. Speaking of chaos and hell. We use Flowdesk.
Yep.
And so what I did was on the back end of my website, because I wanted to really reduce the barrier
Mhm,
to actually taking the survey. And I knew if someone was
Mhm.
going to click the link in order to take the survey, like the
Mhm.
chances is going to significantly drop.
Yep.
So I created links and said, hey, are you interested in leadership development? Are you interested in staff augmentation,
Mhm.
templates, whatever? And on my website, I created pages that were unlisted for all of those. So all the
Okay.
links were there and they just clicked on it and just gave them like a thank you.
Okay.
And that was probably the best way for me that I knew I could keep them in the email to get the
Mhm.
highest amount of clicks or
Yeah.
responses.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sigh.
I'm right there with you, Danny. Yes, Cynthia, over to
But
you.
if you want, let's build the capability to put it into an email and we'll become
Yeah.
millionaires.
Yes,
So
yes, that's right.
I'm good with that.
Yes.
Right.
MailerLite does have a built-in quiz option, which isn't helpful if you're using another platform. I was going to say it's interesting too, because thinking like zooming out, lifestyle creators actually do leverage a lot of value by cross-pollinating interests, right? And so the balance is like, how do you, because we're all multi-passionate, we're all multi-talented, like how do you bring that multi-passion in a way that complements your audience, where you're also not, sending them stuff they don't want and growing your list so big with people who aren't ultimately going to convert, because we do need to get paid. And yeah, it's such an interesting balance to
And
juggle.
And you bring up a
Well,
good point,
and-
right? Because part of it is building that relationship, Cynthia. And so like in my newsletter, I will mention like or put in a picture if I went on a really great hike or ultra run, or my kids are leaving for college here. On one of them leaves on Sunday, the other one leaves in a couple weeks. I will mention that stuff because I think it helps them get to know me as a person.
Yeah.
And I might hit a chord and they're like, oh, hey, I hiked in Rocky Mountain National Park, or I did that, or, and it helps create that connection when, people are inundated. So I've always cross-pollinated a little bit because I think it helps build that relationship. And ultimately that's what's going to help them buy.
It creates connection. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're creating connection. And it's really important, I think, to get really clear on what parts we have this ecosystem that's way behind all of this. I mean, there's no way we could get into, an ecosystem of what your messaging should have below the surface on this call. But, it is really important to outline, these are like things for me are, I wear tutus because I celebrate just being alive every day. Like just there are certain things that are connection points that other people who are like into, celebrating the everyday moments, getting out the good china and eating lunch on it or whatever. And you pick those things and you say, this is what I'm willing to share with people because I want to connect with them. But it is very strategic, and it is something that, it requires a bit of thought, because that's how you start to build your identity as a brand, and people to get to know you there.
I'm gonna chime in. It was cutting in and out my Zoom, but for the person who was saying that, like, we are multifaceted, but I think it's finding also, if you're speaking to everybody, you're speaking to no one. So what are you most passionate about? Maybe pick the top two and focus in on those things, and really, I guess, get the niche of those couple things that really says, okay, like whenever I think branching scenarios, I think Christy, or those types of things. Or when I'm thinking more social media, I'm thinking Vanessa. So I think that you just have to kind of decide not to be that one for everybody and figure out what it is that you really want to work on.
Yeah. Really great point, Tabitha. And everything should lead back to your core, what problem do you solve? And so if it doesn't, it's like, it's kind of like, I can't be up there posting about, like, I can't think of something, I don't know, like something that's way out in left field. It's like, why the heck is Patty posting about, I don't know, working out, I mean, or something. So, yeah.
But she's not
Meal
posting out what's
pictures.
in left field. It's
Yeah.
if she's posting something that's in it. It's just, which one do you want to be more known for, and
That's
which one
right.
do you want to really focus in on? Because you're right. I'm a I lead a team, and I always hire unicorns so that I can find, no matter what project, you know, I have one person who's kind of pigeonholed, and he's the one that I'm always having to think about, like, how do I make sure he has work, because he only has one less skill than everybody else. Everybody else is like, okay, I can plug them in anywhere, but him, I'm always thinking ahead.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, Danny, like when I think of you, I think of your hikes, and that's your essence. That's who, you know, I feel like that's part of your brand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's helpful for me, right? Because that's the stuff you just put it out there and then you don't know what resonates with people.
Oh, yeah,
So,
for sure. I
yeah.
feel like I've been on all kinds of hikes. I'm like,
went on
look
a
where
good
I
one
went today.
I went on a good one yesterday. You have to go look.
But it makes you
I will.
relatable as a person. So
It
it's not
does.
just they're always about business. It's, you know, I'm not a hikey person, but you know what? If somebody else is, at least I get to see the nice things of the things that
Totally.
I'm not
I don't have
necessarily
to
into,
go.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we got about 3 minutes yet left, so we only have just a couple of things left, but how often are you going to send out the emails is another thing to think about. This depends on a variety of factors, like how big your list is, what you're sending. So there's not like a set number. If you're not sure, you might go with once a week at first. At a bare minimum, you should be sending emails once a month. If you start seeing a bunch of unsubscribes, one of the factors could be you're emailing too much, or maybe look at the content, obviously, is another thing. Most of us, yeah.
The other thing I can just add really quick is
Yeah.
make sure you have it set up correctly, because the new Google spam requirements went into effect last spring. And if you are getting more than 0.1 unsubscribes, like 1% unsubscribes, they're going to just block you and you won't even make it to them. So
I
there's
got
some new
blocked out. It was bad. So
Yeah.
I didn't, before I used MailChimp, before I knew any better, about a month ago, I sent something from my work email, my Gmail. And before I knew it, I had to call my web designer, the person who manages my website and Google Workspace to get me back in. And it was a
Yeah.
nightmare. So I learned the hard way, which is normally how I learn. So anyway.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I use MailChimp only for you guys. I pay for an account separately just for this list, because it sends out those reminders. And if anything ever happens where people aren't opening these emails, it's not going to affect like my other business. And Michelle Woodland asked about what about the email just going to junk? Yeah, it really matters that if it gets flagged as like salesy stuff, I mean, you're going to want to write in your emails like you're just writing like to a friend. So if it's like really salesy kind of a feeling, a lot of times it will go to junk. So that's something important.
I shared all this information that came out in the spring of what you need to do, like for DMARC and some other things. And I will go find the blog and post it in here, because there's some things you need to do to make sure you're not going to junk, and to make sure.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Danny. That'll be really helpful for folks. In 1 minute. All right. How will you track how well your emails are doing and improve? So the top two metrics that you want to track here are click-through rate and open rate. So you can see these are my average open rate and my average click rate on the screen. The average open rate is between 17 to 28%, and the average email click-through rate is between 2 to 5%. So those are the things to track. Whoops. And are you following all the appropriate regulations? I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to get into all the different laws that apply here, but don't use false or misleading header information. Like your from field and the reply to address field should match. You can't make your email look like it's coming from like a celebrity or something. Don't use deceptive subject lines. So just be really careful with that. Like you can't write, you want $1 million, like that'll get you in blocked. You have to give a mailing address. You're required by law to give a mailing address on every email that you send. You can use a PO box, I believe. You have to have the unsubscribe thing. So there's got to be really super clear unsubscribe. If you only heard this, if you don't have an email list now, start one and spend some time figuring out a good quality lead magnet. Otherwise, none of this matters. Nobody's going to give you their email anyway. And thank you very much, everyone. Good to see everyone here. Thanks for chiming in, all the wonderful discussion, and we will go ahead and conclude there since we're 1 minute over, but we were pretty efficient. I feel like we got a lot accomplished.
This was fabulous, Patty.
Good. I'm glad it was helpful.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Patty.
Thanks. Have a wonderful rest of the week, everyone. And we'll see you on Slack in the meantime.
Thanks, y'all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.